So I always have kind of like a spectrum that I give to clients of like, how sustainable do you want to be, like, and how much are you really committed to? Like everyone says, yeah, in a perfect case scenario, of course they always will say yes, right? But then when it actually comes to it, kind of where do they lie on it? And that's kind of where you'll land. So for us, as an example, it was really just cutting plastic out. Like it's really garbage that you see. It lasts forever. But on the other side, there's always going to be someone saying, okay, well, paper takes a lot more resources of water or emissions, to move glass. Like there's always that conversation. And instead of being kind of a problem finder, like you're trying to just kind of solve your one beef with the environment, because there's so many things. And if you can do that well, hopefully though another brand will choose the other pillar, because everyone's kind of different. Everyone is very different, not kind of. And just being transparent about it. And then they'll be like, okay, it checks these boxes and I'm okay with it.
Hey, thanks so much for joining me today. We've got Johnathan Assaraf. Now, he's half of the husband and wife team that launched Dip. They launched these onto shelves across the country, a salon-grade shampoo and conditioner bar in sustainable packaging. Unfortunately, Kate can't join us, but John, thank you so much, man. I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. Kate's not here. She's more of like the creative kind of workforce, as far as the copywriting and really the vision.
Yeah, of course. And so tell me really quick, what's the goal of Dip?
So yeah, I mean, this was basically a product that came out of Kate's real desire for hair. She's like such a hair snob, and as we kind of get older and more, I guess, aware of all the waste and just like bad packaging practices, like let alone all the other ways of not being sustainable. It is a hard nut to crack, but for her it was difficult to still be somewhat eco-friendly with her vicious hair care regimen with really high-end shampoo and conditioner that would just go by through the weeks at a time. So not only was it expensive, it was extremely wasteful.
Yeah. So what was the sustainable packaging challenge for Dip?
So really for us, our challenge was, how do we still kind of can keep that kind of premium feel, or that perceived
Yeah.
value, quote unquote, um, but being a little more responsible packaging, and kind of challenge, not everything has to be plastic wrapped or just plastic heavy.
Yeah, plastic at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. So Kate is the brains behind the product and you bring it to life, right? Can you share a little bit about your packaging history, like what you've done in the past?
Yeah, so it's kind of funny. Like if you go back to really, so I studied industrial design, so I'm kind of more, I guess, where my sustainable mission comes in is just kind of seeing more high level stuff and just like how systems can be kind of placed more creative in strategy versus the actual product side. Even though I got it really for the product point of view. Um, Industrial design is one of those tricky beasts where it can really spread out. It's pretty broad, where people go. And so a lot of us go into packaging, like, especially now, because it is such an important piece of a brand for that experience, that a lot of companies are hiring out industrial designers to elevate that experience. Yeah, so that title can really be anywhere from like the user experience to the packaging to the actual hardware. So it's kind of a big gamut. And just kind of being mostly in beauty and cosmetics for so long, as well as like health and beauty. Both Kate and I, we've always worked together almost like as consultants. Like I said before, like her kind of doing more of the market strategy. And we would always push kind of these renegade things, like really something exciting and creative. And just, I don't know if it was the clients were just kind of a little gun shy. It's kind of hard to push out their ideas for bigger companies because, they got to play safe. They got to get approvals. So being, nimble and small, like that's a big part of Dip's mission, is like, not only is it a responsible packaging, but like just responsible growth. We were able to do what we wanted and what we kind of, some of those fun ideas that just kind of got thrown in the wastebasket, right, so to speak. And so we just had fun doing it, and we just kind of stayed true to kind of our mission and just zeroed in on it.
All right. So for a startup out there or a designer that's working with startups, how important is packaging and what is the role that packaging plays in building your startup?
Yeah, it's obviously I'm biased because it's what I do. But I would say it's extremely important because, again, like I was saying, is if you can really hone into the best experience for a customer, no matter what it is, like if your thing is like the technology of the experience, like how an app works, like to cater to the best user experience. And for me, the opportunity I can give as a package designer is that experience of how you purchase. And it's funny, it seems kind of like shallow, to some people, but like I've been in it for so long, I still am a sucker for good packaging, even though I know all the, I'm not jaded, so to speak, but like of all the stuff you do know, like a lot of it is kind of fluff. Um, but I still buy into it because I can't help my judgments, like, and so, yeah, I would say it's extremely important because if you can grab that attention across all your competitors, like what's going to cause someone to pick it up and then, take it home with you.
Yeah, 100%. So as a designer myself, I kind of find this challenging where you can see something that is completely unsustainable, but still, I can still appreciate the design that went into it. I do feel a little bit guilty about it, but as a designer, you can appreciate good design.
Yeah, it's all about kind of picking your poison. So I always have kind of like a spectrum that I give to clients of like how sustainable do you want to be, like, and how much are you really committed to? Like everyone says, yeah, in a perfect case scenario, of course they always will say yes, right? But then when it actually comes to it, kind of where do they lie on it? And that's kind of where you'll land, and ultimately, like another funny kind of caveat to these nice luxury components that are all plastic and shrouded, like if it's a fragile something that you're moving product and it breaks because it's not in good you know flimsy packaging, then that's extremely wasteful because all the back like to manufacture the shipping, like not all that stuff, like people don't, sometimes you kind of have to find where you're at in that scale. um and I think I kind of touched on earlier, like pick your poison. Like there's not a silver bullet for sustainability. Like if that's like your tact to satisfy. Um, so for us, as an example, it was really just cutting plastic out. Like it's really garbage that you see. It lasts forever. But on the other side, there's always going to be someone saying, okay, well, paper takes a lot more resources of water or emissions, to move glass. Like there's always that conversation. And instead of being kind of a problem finder, like you're trying to just kind of solve your one beef with the environment, because there's so many things. And if you can do that well, hopefully though another brand will choose the other pillar, because everyone's kind of different. Everyone is very different, not kind of. And just being transparent about it. And then they'll be like, okay, it checks these boxes and I'm okay with it. So sorry. And so as we grow, like besides from just a shampoo and a conditioner bar, right? Because we challenge, okay, if it can't be in plastic, then what is it? It's a high concentrate bar that can just come in your regular soap packaging. Like it sounds so easy because it's been done forever on your body. Like why not on the hair? And so we're starting to play with some other products, like a product that doesn't require a lot of water. So we have kind of like a dry shampoo or an enzyme cleaner that you don't need running water at all to spray on it. But most likely that vessel will have to be in like a glass or plastic. That's where we get in tight with the refill community and those stores where you can go and refill.
All right. So starting out, did you guys start with a fully customized pack? Like this was not off the shelf, or did you guys customize something that was off the shelf?
It's regular, so it's unbleached board. Actually, I think it is. It's SBS, to be honest, but it is. It's not using any oil inks. It's all water based. Even the coating on it is water based, but it is sourced from like what's that code, that FSC, that paper. It's a very expensive claim to have, and in order to get that stuff, to get it printed on there of where it's come from was a cost we didn't want to do. But coming from our paper supplier, he has the paperwork that says it was, and it was good enough for us. But honestly, that's the stuff that can be recycled regardless. You could garden compost it if you're really into that. But for us, paper is an awesome material if it's clean and doesn't have those finishes like foil and oil based stuff. It'll recycle beautifully.
Yeah. So your box is super simple. It's a tuck box. Color stands out on it, even for a water based ink. You've added a little hole on top for fragrance. I think you call it the sniffer hole.
A sniffer hole.
Yeah, and then there
Yeah.
are a ton of brands out there that are doing something that's much more complicated in terms of packaging. Did you ever consider doing something that was more complex than just a tuck box?
Yeah, I mean, I can't help myself because I'm always trying to be on the pulse of materials and technology. And I mean, even Kate, as we're exploring other products, like paper kind of pulp or like vac form, so you can get like something molded. Because a lot of my kind of specialties, I like can do sculptural 3D, like really organic, difficult modeling. And so it's kind of like that part of me is like, oh, it's just a box. But I think as you get more experience, like it's kind of like the first time you learn PowerPoint or one of those softwares, like just because you know all the buzz, like the features, you don't use it because it becomes hokey or tacky. And for us, and what's great about Kate is really staying true to the mission and just being, as long as it's telling the story and people are getting, what they need to make that purchase, then that's enough, right? It's like cut out any unnecessary fluff.
Yeah. So what's the research like?
Just seeing how people shop for shampoo and conditioner, it's so much of it is fragrance. So that experience of picking up and being able to smell it, that's why that hole is there too, because our scents are
Mhm.
very kind of sophisticated. They're more than just one note. Really, it is just that. It's just like a box that can move a pretty hard bar, be able to
Yeah,
sample it without
that's
opening it.
right, man. You just give it a whiff, right? So you've got this
Yep.
locking tuck box, which means that if anybody goes in to open it and smell it, they're going to damage that box.
Exactly. So that was, yeah, it is nicer to have like a non-locking and have like a sticker. Like there, we've explored that for sure, and having like stickers and just it's different experiences, right? Like all those little touch points that you can't necessarily appreciate digitally. It's really in store that you can, once you pick it up, the quality of paper and all those things. Um, but again, like we wanted to take out any extra glues or any plastic pot. Like that was really our enemy that we were going against. So we couldn't do that. So by just doing it, a locking tab, then it's secure in store, and they can still get the experience of smelling it. So they don't have store owners love that. I mean, they find that like the best feature because they have that all the time. People are opening things and they're like, not with this. You just pick it up and give it a smell.
Yeah, that's right. So you've got this locking tuck box. You've got the hole on top for smelling it. But if you didn't have that hole in the top and it was just fully stocked with a regular tuck box, then anybody that wanted to smell it, they would have to open the container. They'd have to open up that box to smell it. With a locking tuck, what's going to happen is you're going to get some of that box to tear. It's going to be a return. It's kind of an issue. So what you've got when you open that box, you've actually got your soap wrapped in a paper. I'm assuming that's for like an oil barrier or some type of transfer barrier to keep that box from getting spotty or sweaty, right?
Yeah, food grade packaging. So again, that's another one that's not really going to do any damage to the planet. And that is, yeah, just an extra kind of buffer because there are, right, when you ship to different places and warehouse heat, like those are things we kind of learned, right, and experiences. Sometimes they will shift and warp. It's kind of like the brilliance of M&Ms, right? They have that hard coated shell, so the chocolate can melt a little and harden and still be encased. I wish I could do a sugar coated package. Um,
Yeah.
but that is really just another membrane to kind of, because again, we didn't use any plastic liners. So, what you'll find is some other bars who are doing it, they start to bleed and bleach onto the box and kind of show like sweat stains.
So a lot of times startups go overboard with their packaging. They're competing against the big guys, big billion-dollar businesses.
Hmm.
But your focus is sustainability, right?
Yeah.
You've drilled down into your niche, your niche. What's the reception of Dip been up to now, and like how are you building that brand?
Yeah, I mean, you said it exactly. Your niche, your niche, however they say it, is like, they're our army. Like they really are on board with us and support and even though we have like shortcomings or challenges, they know that we're up against Unilever's, this is Procter and Gamble, but we are catering to them and listening to every word and review, and trying to that's really the benefit that a small and a startup can do, is because you can really be honed in to your community or your category, whereas it's just harder for those bigger guys because they can't help but automate and outsource, because it's a lot of influx of information and requests.
So, what are other packaging opportunities that you'd look at now that you've already launched Dip?
There's even zero waste stores, which is a big part of our business, and they take it in bulk with no packaging at all. And they've asked, and it is something we considered, like how minimal can you really go? But ultimately, as we were trying to move over for like salon grade and people, those that are in salons, like eventually that we're trying to break into more of that. It has to live on its own, right? It's kind of like it's got to speak for itself. If a naked bar by itself, unfortunately, is just not enough. Um, but yeah, but to your point of like paper and all those things, like I wish I was on press checks. Like I wish I was able to be there for a lot of that stuff because there's a lot of quality things that once it came out and you have to settle, you got 10,000 of these things. Like it's like a kick in the stomach, I should say, is the nice way. Um, and how do you mitigate mistakes or unforeseen quality issues, because again, you don't want to just throw everything out and start again, because not only is it expensive, it's wasteful. So we have a couple like band-aid solutions until the next run.
Yeah. And all right. So, you mentioned on your next run. So, did you have issues on your first run?
Yeah, we had the color, like, cause so much of the brand, right, for that impact to still be exciting was color. Like it's such color theory is such a huge part of our brand.
Can you tell me about that?
And it's
Mm-hmm.
painstakingly picking all those and dialing it in, trying to figure out. I mean, that's the hardest part, I think, as a package designer for you startups is everyone perceives color differently, right? There's so many emotion with that, but on the other side, from the technical side, like matching my screen to like a physical print, on fabric versus, it's just gets very complicated. And of course, I had these colors
Wow.
dialed in, and then on the print run, on some of the first
Mm-hmm.
batch, and it was actually a mistake from the printer because the same color was the background color was meant for one or two of the fragrances, and they looked off. So it almost felt like, because then when you have a fleet of 8 different fragrances, right now there's so many, so now it's like, wait, is that a ninth one, or is like, because it looks kind of like this one. So on our next run, we made sure that we had a range board, right? It's like what will pass. And
All right. So, you bring up a great topic. You mentioned a range board. Can you explain what a range board is when it comes to packaging?
yeah, it's kind of where because when you have these big sheets, right? Like we had like a 16 die, and so dies are like how many boxes they can cut on one sheet of paper, right? Because it's just mass, like shooting them out, and then they press it. So one section, even though it's the same ink, if it's not flowing right, it's a quality thing that they have to approve. Even if you have, like, let's say a pink color here, it might be like a darker version of it on one corner. Um, and by seeing, because I think they can dial it in. They can't necessarily change the color from like a pink to a red, but there's kind of like a light, medium, and dark, and so that kind of range. When you see it side by side, it looks very different, right? But so you kind of have your pass fail, right? If you can kind of see, and then hopefully they have someone there, who can QC it and will just kick out those bad ones and reprint where necessary. And that range board goes not only for print, that's really also for custom packaging as well. Like when you have fit and finish and things that are molded, but that's a different conversation.
All right. So, what's a range board? Is it like the plus or minus of what you're going to accept? So, a little bit lighter, a little bit darker, or if it's like a fit, is it just a little bit tighter, a little bit looser? Because in production, you are going to have a range. So, instead of
Yeah.
approving this is the color that I want, you're approving this is the color I'll
Yeah,
accept, and these
exactly.
over here are as far and that I'm willing to accept from that gamut.
Right. And then it's up to the manufacturer to say, I can get you there, but then it means if we can yield, the likely that they can yield that how many times, and they can figure out that formula. So then you might have to buy extra, right? If you're trying to do something that's complicated for that manufacturer, they might have a higher scrap rate where they're going to have to toss a lot of those. So you have to account for that loss if you're still trying to launch 10,000, right? If we're using that example, they'll figure out that percentage of scrap, and, based off your quality.
You need
Yeah.
10,000, but then you're actually buying 15,000. My question to you is: so then, are you paying for 10,000, or are you paying for the 15,000 in the overage?
You generally have to pay more to account for that. I mean, I don't know. Every printer's got different deals. Whoever's listening, I'm up for always finding it.
This is one of the things that you don't know when you're launching a product or a brand, the range board, paying for overages. You don't
Yeah.
know because you have to go through it once, right? You got to go through it once to know it. Second time, you're going to get better. Third time, even better. But these are the things that most startups screw up the
Mhm.
first time, almost 100% of the time.
It's there's always uncertainty thing, and it's always the things that you think are the easiest, right? Because you don't pay so much focus. Like, it's a regular process. It's paper, like it should go smooth. Those are the ones that sneak up on you. So be prepared for those hidden
Yeah.
demons.
All right. So what's the packaging you're currently shipping your e-commerce orders in?
Like when someone makes an order, yeah, we have just regular Uline corrugate, and we did custom tape so we can brand it further. We have custom tissue paper, like that. That unboxing experience. It's very kind of homegrown when you look at it. But all those touch points, like I said, are branded or ownable for us, and I think it helps that experience of someone getting their product. And we throw in like we have this dip patch which I'm wearing because that's kind of our vibe of instead of buying newness all the time, there's a lot of good fabric out there that still has a second life. Throw a patch on it. And so that's special for those online orders. And it's also to incentivize because, we can't compete with free shipping like the Amazons, those beasts out there. So our combat for that is we're trying to get into as much stores, as much refill stores in the nation. So if you want to save cost, you go into the store, and we're really championing those smaller stores and refill especially.
Yeah. So how affordable is custom tissue and a custom tape?
It's very affordable. If you get into higher volume, like this is where you start to see peanut, styrofoam, all
Mm,
that stuff, which I hate. I avoid that at all costs. Like that, for me,
yeah.
that experience is lost. Like I hate buying something
100%.
that is even sustainable or even art, and it comes in that, plastic wrap or styrofoam. But the beast, the reality is when you get into super high volume stuff, that stuff is really cheap. I mean, it's pennies because it's undecorated. It's just machined stuff. It's, but that's like the sadness. Like that's what we're trying to go up against. But yeah, tissue paper is for us. It's a marketing. It's another expense because it helps again bring more brand awareness. We can print. We can do advertising on it if we wanted to. We're celebrating an artist. Geo Rutherford is her artwork that's on there. So obviously championing those that are in our group as much as possible. And she does this cool artwork in Michigan where she sifts through like whatever's found. Like it's kind of funny to like a lot of stuff people don't notice. Like it just looks like shells or just see whatever weird stuff comes on the shores. But it's also like when you look up close, there's pellets, there's combs, there's like all sorts of weird stuff. And she does these lithograph prints. And so I just think it's such a cool art piece, and it just aligned with us. So she was nice enough to give us one of her prints that we could just screen onto our tissue paper.
All right. So let's,
Yeah.
okay. So let's recap.
Yeah.
If I order dip online, I'm going to get a Uline
Yeah.
box. I get custom tissue. I get a patch to reuse some clothes or patch over a hole, which is awesome. I'm assuming you're going to get a custom tape, super grassroots
Hmm.
feel. It's easy to deploy
Hmm.
and easy to grow out of for startups. Is
Yep.
there anyone designing for a startup
Yep.
or anybody that's designing for a startup, right? Like, for example, like what's on your tape?
It says, "When I dip, you dip, we dip,"
When I dip, you dip, we dip.
which is from like old '90s rap song, "To Dip." I think you can play it after the show. Uh, I mean, we love the word dip. We use it all the time, just in all just forms. It's just part of
Yeah.
our speech, and it's just something that it's like a news ticker across the thing. So no matter where you cut it, dip is all over it.
When you dip, I dip, we dip.
All right. So you moved out of packing this up in your garage and you're packing it out through now a fulfillment house. Like, are there benefits? Is it easier to do it through a fulfillment house? Is it cheaper to make more sense at this level of being a startup?
Yeah, and it's nicely packed. Like nothing is sloppy. Like we have a good, that's another piece that we're able to control because we, are small and scaling responsibly. Is where our product is made is also the fulfillment house. So we don't have to move it right? So they can also see inventory when they need to ramp up. Like it is really like I wouldn't say a well-oiled machine. Obviously, there's hiccups, but just having that, cutting that middleman out is helpful, and we just have a good relationship where um, the department who's doing the pack out we know well and personally, and they feel good about sending it out, like they're part of the brand. Like sometimes these fulfillment houses, they could care less of how it looks when they ship it. They don't fold it nice. They, any extra steps to them is a big burden, which again is why you get a lot of these just filled peanuts, and anything that's just fast and minimal touch points costs money, because we pay a lot of money for, not a lot, but compared to, right, the automated, we pay for that, and we're happy to, because again, that experience is vital.
You're a packaging designer. You've designed for a lot of brands. We've overlapped in some cases, never having worked directly, but we've worked on the same brands about the same time. You worked in beauty. You and Kate launched Dip out of your home, and now you're using Uline tissue tape, making a killer bar of shampoo and conditioner, among other products you're going to be launching soon. So as we start wrapping up, I wanted to mention one thing about the product. It's awesome, and that's something to be said for the bar shampoo, because Kate had mentioned in a conversation that we had when you guys came out to Arizona was that there were other ingredients available, right? There's different ingredients in the EWG list that are really sustainable, but she kind of picked something that was further down the line because it was a better performing product. And again, whether it's packaging or product, you want to be sustainable, which is awesome, but you also got to think about performance. You're selling the product, not the sustainability aspect of it. Yes, you need it to be sustainable, but it's got to work equally as well as what's on the market, right? So, I mean, that's the hard part, I think, for people to get, is like you're selling the product and you want it to perform as best as it can. At this point, Dip is growing, right? So are you 100% Dip, or are you still taking on packaging work, either freelance as an industrial designer?
Yeah, I wish I could say I was even 100% Dip too. In all transparency, I just took on a job with an e-mobility company called Jetson, and that kind of scratches that itch that I've had for a while to get back into product design and industrial stuff. Whereas Kate, Dip is at a good spot where she can really run it. We've made such a good connection of outsourcing artists and just kind of helpers along the way as we need it. But yeah, certainly I'm still a big part of it as far as those new launches. Doing a couple asset renders and stuff here and there, but unfortunately I can't give it as much time as I used to. I really dedicated the last 2 years to grow it with her. And now that it is launched, I can kind of be in the background even more.
John, man, thanks so much for being on, talking through a startup, starting up your own brand, the challenges of packaging that everybody goes through, at least that you've gone through. You've navigated from not just price sensitivity to packaging solutions, like coming up with the sniffer hole, but also just sharing your design process. So if somebody wants to reach out to you and have you help them launch the next big product in sustainable packaging, is that something you're open to do?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome, man. So then you can reach out to John at dipalready.com. On their website, there's a contact button. Reach out to John that way. Thanks so much, man. I wish you guys the best. I love the product. I think anybody that's listening should buy it and then listen to John for startup advice on what to do with your packaging. All right, guys. Thanks so much. That's the end of the show.